Hello everybody and welcome to another top 5 video, and this week I wanted to celebrate the release of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. by touching in on my 5 cards that I am most excited to try out coming out of this box. So real simple this week, it's just going to be the cards that are new to the game through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There are a couple cards that have been reprinted and I think are going to gain new context, but I'm excited to talk about the cards that are going to come into the game. They're going to make hopefully a meaningful change and really open up some decks, either new or I guess an example of 1 or 2 of the cards will be playing into our new heroes, Nick Fury and Maria Hill. So let's start with my number 5, which is Fitz. He is a 3-cost support with the Persona and Shield trait, and reduce the cost to play Fitz by 2 if your identity has the Shield trait. So that is relevant to a few different characters. And then the alter ego action of exhaust Fitz, search your deck for a tech card and add it to your hand. So this is going to be really helpful in heroes like War Machine, like Iron Man, Rocket. I think Black Widow has a few tech in her actual kit, so she can probably gain something from this, not to mention the fact that she herself has the shield trait on her alter ego side. I don't believe she has it on her other side, but I could be wrong. Let me just check that real quick. No, she is an Avenger spy on her hero side. So either way, this is going to be a helpful card, especially in a character like Rocket, who wants tech in play for him to be able to discard to draw 2 cards on his alter ego side. Most of his guns are tech. I think all of his guns are tech, his weapons. Obviously is going to be much better in a deck that has the shield trait, because the tech you go grab is going to be easier to get to. It is an alter ego action, so you do need to be a character that is okay with going to alter ego or isn't going to be going to alter ego on a regular basis, so that this is just kind of a minor inconvenience. But either way, I have high hopes for this card. If you can hard mulligan for this in Iron Man so that you know that you're going to have a reasonably large hand size when you get to the other side, I suppose you're kind of fighting some tension there, because you got to pay 3, then get the tech, then play it out. Either way, hopefully this will just be a good building block that enables someone like Tony to only be an alter ego for a limited amount of time. So let's move on to my number 4, which is Concentrated Fire. So this is one of the identity-specific cards for Nick Fury. It is a 2-cost event, and it has the hero action attack, deal 4 damage to an enemy. This attack gains ranged. If this attack defeats an enemy, choose either to place threat on your suit form, which we'll get to in just a second, equal to that enemy's printed scheme, or change to stealth suit form. Normally your alter ego, I guess you'll start the game in your assault form, which is an item that when you attack, you can remove up to 3 threat from the suit to have that attack deal additional damage for each threat removed this way. So in the case of this, Concentrated Fire could deal 7, and then you could recoup some of that threat. You could recoup some threat based on the amount of scheme that enemy had. Additionally, the other side is the stealth suit form, which says that when an enemy would attack you, its schemes instead place 1 threat from that activation here instead of on the main scheme if there are 5 or less threat on this card. The stealth suit form can hold up to a maximum of 6 threat, and then the Nick Fury hero himself says that when you make a basic attack, you have to change to the assault suit form, so you can't stay in stealth suit once you've made an attack. Obviously, Concentrated Fire is a way to flip over, and this is one of those cards in his kit that really just takes advantage of what might seem like to be a little bit of a disadvantage. If Nick Fury can just stay in his stealth suit form, he can, basically preserve his life total. He can gain some threat. I do think there's going to be, I haven't actually played with Nick Fury yet, so I do think there's going to be some tension of you don't want to let the main scheme get out of control, but if the if the villain is bad at scheming, you could just be mitigating all the scheming they're doing by just putting, if they're only scheming for one, and you're getting lucky at that point. But if you just get lucky enough, you might not even be seeing much threat going on to the main scheme, and then you can make a basic attack and flip over to assault suit form. I think at that point, when you attack out, okay, so you could bump up his own attack, as I have now confirmed it since my pack opening that the interrupt happens and you still have that window to remove threat. But either way, concentrated fire, which is what all this was about, is able to flip you over to assault suit form. You can bump up to at most 7, make an attack, and if you happen to defeat that enemy, which at that point I think you're going to defeat the enemy, you can either change back to assault suit form, you can accrue some of that scheme back, or you can accrue some of that threat back. And yeah, just overall, I think this is a card that has a lot of strategy to it. My understanding of Nick Fury and how I believe he's going to be playing is similar to like there was the original Dimir, which is a blue-black faction in Magic, and their original iteration back in 2005 was such that the designers kind of described it as, when your opponent loses to a Dimir deck, they're not necessarily sure how they lost, but the Dimir kind of just played in a way where they made a lot of really small actions that led up to a very big victory. And my thought is that that's going to be a lot of what Fury is. It's going to be a lot of minute choices that will result in something great. And so my hope is that Concentrated Fire is emblematic of that you will see these series of small decisions that will result in really stealthy victory. I had a lot to say about that card. Wow. Okay. Moving on to my number 3, which is Slingshot, a leadership ally for 3. She has 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health. She is a spy and shield traded ally, and she has the action of, actually I think I overlooked that. She has just action, so you don't even need to be in a hero form, which is good. She has the action, spend a energy resource, put Slingshot into play from your hand under any player's control. At the end of that phase, if Slingshot is still in play, return her to your hand. I have equated this to Domino's Pistols or the Psychic Link from Spider's Pack, where this is either a guaranteed 2 attack or a guaranteed 2 thwart every turn at the cost of basically an energy resource. If you have the ability to ready up an ally, which leadership has a reasonable amount of that, she doesn't fall into Avengers, so it's harder. I guess you don't want to put the whatever that sky cycle is, right? You don't want to put that onto her anyway. Even if she was an Avenger, you wouldn't want to, because she's going to disappear at the end of the phase. But if you have a way to ready her up, then she's a guaranteed 2/2 or 4 threat or 4 thwart, 4 attack, whatever you're looking for, some combination of that if you have the ability to do that. But regardless, I just like the fact that she comes down really cheap. She's not going to stick around, but she's going to deal damage. There's a good amount of time when either A, you just have an extra wild resource generator sitting around or an extra card in your hand, and if you can line it up so that Slingshot can just be coming down every turn and doing something, that's great. Additionally, when she returns to your hand, it's after you've already refreshed your hand, so you're not using up card economy or hand economy to play with her. And I just think that this is such a cool design space, and my hope is that she will play as well as I'm theorizing she does. She reads really well. I'm hoping that remains true. But either way, just cool design space, cool multiplayer scalability to sit there and say, okay, I want to put her into play under my friend's thing because he's going to be able to do something, or he just goes first and he's going to be able to just use this to clear up a side scheme so that we can all get through everything. Overall, I feel really excited by the possibility of this card, and my hope is that it lives up to even a small amount of the hype that I have. All right, moving on to my number 2, we have the Iliad, which I at first would have equated to Venom's minigun, and I still think that is an apt comparison, but having now seen it in play, I'm going to say that I think this is maybe one of the best cards in Maria Hill's kit. It might be the best card in her kit, maybe very easily. This is maybe what you want to build your entire strategy around. I think that the helicarriers that she has in her pre-constructed deck, very powerful, to the point where it becomes a question of, are there even other shield supports that you'll want to play? And I guess that's going to come down to what your economy looks like, what your build looks like, what aspect you're in. But the good news is the Iliad will always be there. Even if you don't want to play with the protection one, which I don't know why you wouldn't, even if you don't want to play with the aggression one, because maybe there's just not that many allies, so that the power level of that card kind of diminishes. But even if that's not something that's attractive to you, the Iliad just coming down. Oh, I didn't even tell you what the card is for anybody who's not like looking at the screen. So it is a 6-cost support, shield vehicle traded with uses 3, with mission counters, and then an action of exhaust the Iliad and remove 1 mission counter from it. Choose to either deal 5 damage to an enemy, remove 4 threat from a scheme, or heal 3 damage from an identity. So for the most part, I would say that you're probably just going to be doing 5 damage or removing 4 threat. You're probably going to be removing 4 threat, especially in multiplayer. But the option to be able to heal 3 damage from an identity is also very important to remember. At first, when I was evaluating the helicarriers, all these 6-cost ones, I thought, oh, they got really low uses, because I just didn't believe in the potential of Maria Hill to kind of keep them stocked. But I think that was an oversight on my part, and I think that the ability for these to really make a difference, you just find a in-aspect shield support that has counters on it, and you just go, this is nice. Like, let's say you're in aggression, it's nice to have tac team, but tac team is really going to come down and just offer its counters to the helicarriers, and that is a strategy that I think is going to be completely valid. And man, oh man, I watched the Iliad in motion this past weekend, and it's just great. And so it only solidified how much I am excited to try this card out. I have said in the past that I'm not too excited about Maria Hill. She just kind of reads as very kind of, you're just playing an accounting game of moving the stuff around. And I think that's still valid. I think that you are moving a lot of counters around. And for some people, that is exactly their gameplay. For me, that might be gameplay that I will enjoy, and then it will kind of like die down after 2 or 3 games, just because it becomes so heady to play. But either way, that doesn't change the fact that the Iliad might be one of the best cards that has come out in the entire box, let alone just in Maria Hill's kit. But let's move on to my number 1, because I think this one is a doozy. So my number 1 is organizational support, which, if I understand correctly, was not something that was previewed at all. It was a surprise to everybody. It is a resource that already creates a genius resource, so it's not completely dependent on its interruptibility. But when you spend this card, exhaust up to 3 allies and or supports you control that share a trait with your identity. It's not just S.H.I.E.L.D, it's Asgard, it's Avenger, it's X-Men, it's everything. Generate the printed resources on each card exhausted this way. So this card can generate up to 4 resources. Now, it does come with a cost, and this is not going to be an essential card in every leadership deck, but a leadership deck that has supports that share a trait with this hero, like Avengers Mansion, or Stark Tower, or the X Mansion, what have you, or I guess the X Bunker for X Force. Like, if you have supports that share a trait with you, they're going to have another use. They're going to have what their normal use is, but they're also going to have the ability to generate some resources for you. All of your allies, especially in leadership, you can expand out the number of allies you have. Like, it's pretty easy to start going, okay, organizational support is going to make me 3 resources. I'm happy that this is limited to traits. I'm happy that this is a leadership card and that this is not a basic card. I don't want this to be a game staple, but I want this to be a staple for leadership decks that really can use it. And I'm so excited by the potential of this card, because I think that this is going to be similar to Digging Deep, where you almost wish that they would just reprint this in a year so that we had more copies of it, because I think this is just going to be a stellar card, and I'm excited for it. And that's why it is my number 1. I'm so hyped to play with this card. I've already tried it out in a leadership Thor deck, because he has good traits that spread over several places. Asgard and Avenger is easy for him to hit. But either way, that is my top 5. That is the 5 cards that I'm the most excited by. Leo Fitz, Concentrated Fire, Slingshot, the Iliad, and organizational support. What are your 5? What cards are you excited by? Not even just 5. What just cards are you excited by? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time. Thank you.